The Revolutionary War, the war that gave America its independence. Men fought hard in all sorts of conditions, winning it all for America. Hold on a minute. What about the women? Didn't they have something to do with winning the war too? Let's rewind and take it back to the beginning and look at what role the women played in the Revolutionary War. When people think back to the Revolutionary War, many tend to think about the men, how brave, strong, and courageous they were, willing to risk their lives fighting for America. Women played a crucial role in America gaining its independence. During the Revolutionary War, women took on many roles. Some roles were more traditional, while others were unconventional and even scandalous for the time. Many women became nurses during the Revolutionary War. These nurses tended to be camp followers, which were wives, daughters, and mothers of male soldiers who followed the army looking for food and protection because they couldn't support themselves after the men left for war. These women were brave and left their old lives to go and help soldiers. The female workers did a lot of the dirty work that needed to be done. They fed and bathed patients, emptied chamber pots, and cleaned hospital wards. While it wasn't the most glamorous job, women did it anyways, because without the women doing it, the men wouldn't have anyone to help them recover. The female nurses often came up with new inventions to help treat and care for their patients, such as go chairs, which were wheelchairs, stone hot water bottles, and many other things. Being a nurse was a risky job to take, because the mortality rate in hospitals for the sick, as well as for the caregivers, was extremely high. Some women weren't easily scared, though, and were brave and became nurses anyways, despite the risk. Mary Waters was one of the first nurses. She was a native of Dublin who immigrated to Philadelphia in 1766. She became a nurse when the war broke out. Mary was just one of many who put her own life on the line to care for the men who were fighting. Being nurses wasn't all women did. Many women showed their loyalty to the revolutionary cause by boycotting British goods and instead made their own. Since most textiles in the colonies were imported from Britain, weaving homespun cloth became an act of political rebellion. Women also served the war effort by sewing uniforms and blankets for the soldiers. They also made bullets and raised funds for the war effort. These were all crucial things that the men needed in order to fight in the war. Something many don't think about is the lives and tasks the men left behind when suddenly going to war. Women became responsible for tending their husbands' business affairs and property, something they had no experience doing before. There were women who even went a step further and actually served directly in the war. One of the women to do this was Mary McCauley. Mary had followed the 7th Pennsylvania Regiment. John, her husband, was an artilleryman. Mary hauled water to the cannon during the Battle of Monmouth, New Jersey, so the sponger could swab out the barrel. Her husband, John, collapsed during the battle due to either a wound or the extreme heat of the day, and Mary immediately took his place at the cannon. She assisted in firing it with the rest of the crew for the remainder of the battle. Margaret Corbin was another woman who stepped up to help sponge and load the cannons when her husband was killed. Margaret ended up getting wounded by a grape shot in the arm and chest, and as a result was disabled for the rest of her life. These accounts are direct examples of the women who risked their lives. There were other women who served in the war, but had to dress up as men in order to do so. Deborah Sampson was one of the women who disguised herself as a man in order to serve in the Continental Army during the Revolutionary War. She said, "Why can I not fight for my country too?"
Going to be all right?
I'll check his heart. What? Oh, no.
What is it? Is he dying?
No, Robert's going to live, but how shall I say this? Robert isn't a he. He's a she.
What?
Many women were not content to leave such affairs, such as fighting, up to just men. So they wore the men's uniforms and cut their hair and pretended to be men in order to serve.
They caught you and you tried again? Why?
Well, I just turned 21 and I didn't want to just get married. And I wanted to fight for my country. To all brave, healthy, able-bodied young men. I knew the army was hard up for soldiers, so I went to a town further away and enlisted there.
How on earth did you go unnoticed by the other soldiers?
It was hard. They teased me about not shaving, so... I told him I was just too young to grow a beard.
Your story is amazing! You took so many risks.
Yes, but I was always afraid of being caught. I'd heard of some other women who disguised themselves as men to enlist. When they were discovered, they were disgraced.
But you still had the courage to follow what was in your heart, no matter what the obstacles. Deborah?
Another important thing women did to help serve in the Revolutionary War was act as eyes and ears, also known as spies, for the military leaders. These women provided invaluable intelligence information throughout the war. Spy networks sprang up throughout the colonies. These spies helped the leaders of the wars in more ways than will ever be known. So, who would you say won America the Revolutionary War and its independence? Both the women and the men did. Without the women being brave and strong and willing to do all the important things they did, the men would not have been able to fight the way they did and may not have won America its independence. America has women to thank for going behind the scenes and doing things that in history have tended to go unseen, because without these women, America would not be what it is today. Brave women and men fought for America and together won America its independence.